I'll reconvene the Planning Commission. Hillary, you can continue.
Yeah. Okay, just kidding. So, I was speaking to the amenities that the applicant is proposing for the PUD. We are recommending 16 points for those amenities. There is also a need for a conditional use permit for a parking lot, and we are recommending approval of that application as well. There are 3 variances before you this evening. One is to increase the number of parking spaces on the site from 100 to 287, and to increase the amount of parking lot frontage along Dowling Avenue North from 40 feet to 116 feet, and from 40 feet to 1,075 feet along Washington Avenue North. So the zoning code limits the number of parking spaces in a surface parking lot to 100. There are 287 parking spaces proposed, so the applicant has applied for the variance. Again, the zoning code limits the amount of parking lot frontage on a street, and if it's on a corner, it applies to both streets or all streets that a site would touch. And so there's more than 40 feet of parking lot frontage proposed along Dowling and along Washington, and so they are asking for the variance. There are unique needs for a regional investment such as the CPAC, and ensuring that event day operations run smoothly is one of them. The CPAC is being developed in an area of the city that has limited on-street parking and limited transit access. There are no existing transit routes in the immediate vicinity of the venue. Local Metro transit routes 22 and 32 run closest to the site, approximately with the nearest stop 1 mile. So I can say that since my involvement in the project since 2011, we have talked with Met Transit over the years. There's not enough here yet to bring the transit line, so we need more here to bring closer transit. It's like field the dreams. If we build it, will they bring the routes? That's what we're hoping for. So it's one of these things where we have to be patient, and we have to kind of massage this and nurse this down the path. And so hopefully we have a CPAC with 8,200 seats and 90 concerts, 54 commercial events, or up to 90 shows a year, and then we get housing, and then we get this. Then we have a mass of people, a mass of jobs, a mass of activity. That's when hopefully Met Transit comes to the table and we start really having that conversation about an actual route closer to the site. That has been and is still a goal of this project, the whole Upper Harbor project, not just this parking lot, not just the CPAC, but all of them. The site has 158 feet of frontage along Dowling Avenue North, 1,204 feet of frontage along Washington, and the site narrows to 32 feet down at that very southern end of the site. The site is long and narrow with a somewhat atypical amount of street frontage when compared to the lot width. This is a unique circumstance of the site. Providing a principal surface parking lot for rideshare and paid parking are necessary to help alleviate congestion in the public streets. Limiting the amount of parking spaces or the amount of parking lot frontage along both Dowling and Washington would severely limit the total number of parking spaces that could fit on the site. The proposed 287 space principal surface parking lot will help achieve the mode split goals developed as part of the ETMP. Additionally, the proposal to have one large principal surface parking lot instead of multiple smaller parking lots is a more efficient use of land and will allow for better traffic management on event days. We are recommending approval of that variance. There is a variance to reduce the number of EV charging stations on the site from 14 to 0. The zoning code requires that when you build a parking lot over 20 or more spaces, that you have 5% of those spaces be EV charging. The applicant is not proposing to have any EV charging stations on the site, and so has requested the variance. Again, this parking lot would serve the CPAC, which is proposed to be built at 3501 West River Road North. It's an 8,200 seat amphitheater and could have up to 54 large ticketed events and up to 90 total events at the venue. During one calendar year, the parking lot would be used up to 90 days, or 25% of the year. There would be gates located at each of the vehicle entrances, as this would not be used on non-event days. Challenges exist in complying with the ordinance because of circumstances unique to the property. The proposed principal surface parking lot will only be used 25% of the year and gated to restrict access when there are no events at the CPAC. Additionally, 26% of the total number of parking spaces proposed would be used for ride sharing, which would turn over many times during the course of an event. The unique nature and limited use of the proposed principal surface parking lot over the course of 1 year creates challenges in complying with the zoning code provision. We are recommending that you grant approval of that variance. The last variance that is needed is to allow off-site parking in the CM2 district for a use located in the PR1. So we didn't quite get it right when we zoned the site. So where the amphitheater is, it is production mixed use, so a PR zoning district. Where the CPAC is, it is CM2, so a commercial. PR cannot park in C without a variance. They can't do it as of right. And so they have requested the variance to allow off-site parking in the CM2 district for a use located in the PR1 district. And I can say that my manager and I went around and around on how to write that one sentence for probably 15 minutes, so I hope it reads well. The only other sites located in the PR production mixed-use district near the site where the CPAC will be located are riverfront properties along West River Road North, south of the CPAC, or occupied by existing uses that are not owned by the city of Minneapolis. The subject property is located along Washington Avenue North with through access, whereas the riverfront parcels can only be accessed from West River Road North. Locating the principal surface parking lot for the CPAC on the site located at 3701 and 3601 Washington greatly reduces the number of vehicles entering the Upper Harbor redevelopment area and greatly reduces the potential for congestion in the public streets. The proposed amount of parking spaces is not excessive, as there are limited on-street parking spaces located in the Upper Harbor redevelopment area, and the CPAC itself will not have any on-site parking. Again, on days when there are events at the CPAC, traffic control agents will be utilized to help direct traffic. Those are the variances. We are recommending approval of that variance as well. The last application that is needed is site plan review that is needed for any new parking facility. There are a few conditions of approval that I will point out, and then there are 4 areas of alternative compliance that was requested. For total number of trees, they need, the total number of trees required is 51. They have 39. We're recommending that they provide 51 trees. Same thing for the shrubs. We are recommending that they provide all of the shrubs and all of the trees for this parking lot. The next item that they need alternative compliance from is the parking and loading, landscaping, and screening, and this has to do with the number of trees along Washington specifically. They would need 30, no, excuse me. The tree requirement along Washington, so just from the southern end up to here is 43 trees. My math seems to be, that seems high, but no. They would need to provide 32 more trees because they're providing 11 along Washington. Again, we are recommending that they meet the general landscaping and screening requirements of having that 51 trees. So we are not recommending that they have those 51 plus the 42 trees or whatnot along Washington. What we're asking is, or what we're granting is alternative compliance to allow them to put the trees where they want on the site. There are 2 parking spaces, and I would actually like someone to point them out, that don't meet within 50 feet. They're actually right here. I'll show them to you. They need to add 1 more tree in this area to meet that requirement that every space be within 50 feet. So what we're recommending ultimately with these conditions is that they meet the tree and the shrub requirements, and that all parking spaces be within 50 feet of an on-site tree. Yes, that covers all of the alternative compliance. And so the other items that, the other conditions of approval then that are not covered by that is they have designed the landscaping to be at an angle with the parking lot, and we are recommending that they design it to be parallel to really provide that screening that is required. That is all. That is the additional condition of approval. So those are the conditions. There's 9 conditions on the site plan review. So those are the applications. That is the project. I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Hillary. So I was the one who pulled this, so the ones that I'm looking at are in particular D and E. So first, starting on D, the variance to go from 40 feet to 1,075 feet on Washington Avenue, that's a really large variance. What would it take them to meet that? Like, would that just mean more landscaping along Washington Avenue, or like?
No, you'd literally have to cut, I mean, it's no more than 40 feet of frontage, so 8, 16, 24, 30, like 5. You could have 5 parking spaces along Washington, and you'd hit your maximum frontage.
Okay.
So you could maybe have 5 parking spaces here if we limited it to the 40 feet, which is not reasonable for the need for the CPAC. It's just, So yeah, that if we limited it to 40 feet on Dowling or 40 feet on Washington, we'd severely limit. It allows 1 row of parking and a two-way drive aisle. That's how we get to 40, 22 feet for a two-way drive aisle, 18 feet for a parking space. That's your 40 feet of frontage. So you couldn't, in the commercial downtown, I think those are the zoning districts, like you can't have a parking lot with 2 rows of parking. That's no longer allowed. You can only have 1 row of parking and a drive aisle. Otherwise, you exceed 40 feet, even if you made things compact, because you can only have 15, you can't get them so small, right? So
on the other side, it's allowed because, why is the longer side allowed?
no, neither of these sides are allowed.
Okay.
I mean,
right, because it,
the regulation says
only 116
maximum
on
of 40
that
on
one.
Dowling,
Yeah.
maximum of 40 on Washington. They have 116 on Dowling and 1,075 in Washington. And it really is.
I guess what I'm missing is why it's so much more on Washington. Aren't they?
Just the layout of the site and
Okay.
because it is so much longer.
It just looks like they're closer than that, but okay. So for the variance findings for the challenges, I mean, so it's about a regional amenity and things like that, but are there any variance findings that, justify making this a surface lot instead of a structured parking lot, a structured garage?
That is not the request before us, to have a structured parking garage. I can imagine that the cost to do that would be completely prohibitive, to be honest with you.
And then on E, so 70-something of the spots are for the drop-off.
Correct.
So the justification for the rest of it is that it's only going to be used 25% of the year, that's the reason? Okay.
Correct, and 26% of the total spaces are for that ride share that will turn over and over.
Yeah. Okay. And then just for the ETMP, you went over this, but I was struck that only 1% is by transit. Has Met Council said, like, once they build this, then we'll...
No one has made any promises as to any future transit, except for we will continue to evaluate it as things come online at Upper Harbor. We just haven't anything come online yet at Upper Harbor. The park, though, I mean, the park is under construction. I should not forget about the 20 acres of parkland along the river. Like, that is under construction. That will open next spring. I believe that is, looking at our park board, I think it's next spring. It's not this fall. I believe it is next spring. Yeah, next spring of 26 is when the park will open, and then spring of 27 is when the CPAC would open. And so we're starting to build on momentum and energy and, excitement, hopefully, then. But yeah.
All right, that's all of my questions. Other commissioners? Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Chairman. I was actually curious about this because I'm grateful that you pulled it, because I know this project very, very well in the larger scope. And I know this parcel extremely well. And just for my colleagues up here, if you didn't know, you've got 94, you've got Washington. It splits in as you go south to 2nd and Washington. That's the little V at the corner that we're looking at. And it's currently like a bramble mess. There's nothing there, and it does sit on a hill. I'm just to be clear, the CPAC, is that, it says applicant is the Port of Minneapolis. Is this essentially being done for the First Ave partnered?
Port of
thing?
Minneapolis is First Avenue Productions and the Minnesota Orchestra.
Okay.
They are Port of Minneapolis together. And
And
they are the ones
Yeah,
doing this project together. They will both be using the CPAC.
thank you. I will attest again to my colleagues, there's it's industrial remote area. There's no, until a bike lane was striped 10 years ago, and then they finally protected it a little bit. It's one of the most tremendous, and I say that word with sheer terror, bike rides you'd ever take because of the heavy use trucks that go down Washington to get to this site. So I support this, and I hope that people would support it too. I do have one question though, and that is about, is there any sort of traffic impact? Because again, this is one of the only access points to North Minneapolis, crossing the bridge. And there is, of course, an exit from 94 right there. If you keep going, you basically are into the suburbs if you don't get off here. Did we have any sort of study on that? I know it's not per this here, it probably was before my time, but I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, for the larger, so the 53-acre development needed environmental review, and we did a travel demand management plan for the entire 53 acres with all of the projected uses. The CPAC always needed an event transportation management plan. This is similar to what we've done for Target Center. US Bank Stadium has one, like all the major things like this, what am I trying to say? Have event management plans. And so, again, it will be written and refined as events happen, but there will be traffic control agents out there on event days helping with the traffic. And so we don't model it because you just can't predict how everyone's going to come, but we can put in all of these means of how to get to the venue. And what was I gonna say? Put in these means of how to get to the venue, and then we will monitor as it goes. And so if we have standing traffic at Dowling and Washington and we need more traffic control agents, that's what we'll do. We'll pivot. We will pivot because this has to work. We can't have it fail every time we have an event because no one will come. Then it fails, and then no one wins. So we will continue to refine. I know this is like taking a leap of faith. Trust me, it's a leap of faith. But we have to have an event to understand how it actually is going to work, right? And what does and doesn't work, and what needs to be added or modified or whatnot. So it's a chicken and egg project. It always has been. It probably always will be until we get to the last development where nothing is relying on it. But until that point, it's a chicken and egg, and things kind of have to be, you got to kind of test them out, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does, knowing the space, and it's the same. We've had these conversations at the park board. So I know that for us as the planning commission, I'm understanding that the different hats, there are different conversations, and people really worry about surface parking and the 100 and whatever. This lot is not a buildable lot in any way, shape, or form. It's just a weird stretch abutting the freeway. And if it helps aid the success of that North Minneapolis venue, then I will absolutely support it, and I'd hope that my colleagues would too. So thank you so much for your time. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I just need to remind commissioners, it's a quasi-judicial proceeding, so we can't take a position on things until after the hearing is concluded. So we haven't started the hearing yet.
Sorry. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Commissioner Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm really interested in the 75% of the time the parking lot will not be used. So if I'm getting that right? So it seems like that the 287 spots will be utilized 25% of the time. What happens the other 75? It just remains gated off? Can community use it? Like, that just stands out to me as a lot of time of just sitting. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I just want to kind of zoom into a little bit. So there is the potential for parcel 6A, which is sitting right here. It's a mixed-use housing project. It's applied for Affordable Housing Trust Fund dollars 3 years. Has not been successful in getting those dollars. One of the comments that came back on the last round was to reduce the amount of parking in that development specifically. And so the development team did, and what that meant is that they would use some of the paid parking on non-event days if that project ever moves forward. I didn't get into this because there's a lot of unknowns and what-ifs, and I didn't want to confuse you because I think there's already a lot of confusing aspects of this project because of the bigger history, right? And so there is potential in the future that these parking spaces will be used on a daily basis by those who live in 6A, northern lot. So there's a potential, like if this project happens, and there's commercial in here, not a lot, but there is some commercial in here too, that this parking on the north side, not the southern ride share is always going to be ride share parking, but this northern half could be used by 6A residents or tenants in the future. But again, I did not want to get into that because there's a lot of unknowns.
Thank
Just
you,
following
Nan.
up on, sorry.
And can I also just complete that thought is that, these are, all of the land except for the 20 acres of parkland are owned by the city of Minneapolis and the city will maintain, and so it's 99-year ground leases. So there's, all of the legal documents that come together with the ground lease and exclusive development rights and what the minimum improvements are and stuff like that. And so the city attorney's office is working with Port of Minneapolis to develop all of those documents for this site. If in the future 6A happens and they need or want some of those parking, all of these documents, these legal documents will get revised to add in a new user of the site. And so the city as a landowner for leasing will have to revise things if there's a new lease holder for those spaces on non-event days. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
I was just going to follow up with, that's still a lot of if. So if the city is the owner, then I guess would state that I think that some consideration of what else, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D for 75% of the time would be worthwhile to look at. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, just following up, so you said there's a park being built, and how close is the park to those parking areas, so that if people wanted to use that parking while enjoying the build-out of the River Road Park?
Everything is parkland on the river side of West River Road North, with the largest body of the park being here where the relics are.
Yeah, that's my point in terms of the use of that space for people just enjoying the park.
Yep, the park board has 20-some spaces on their site, and there are about 90-some spaces on West River Road North. So could the parking lot be used for events at the park? Yes, but our attorneys and their attorneys will all have to talk and make those agreements. Because the park board has to enter that one, the city, Port of Minneapolis, everyone has to sign off and review and approve and modify, right? So I think all of these are possible options. I just don't think anyone's going to give the parking lot use away without knowing who the user is, when they will be open, how they will use it. I think it's when things start happening, we'll start looking at those agreements, to use them. Because yes, I don't think anyone believes that the parking lot sitting there for 75% of the time is a good thing. But it is a good thing on the 25% of the days that we need it. And so I think, kind of like Field of Dreams. We're going to build it and we're going to hope it all works out.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yeah, just a quick point of clarification. The accessible stalls are positioned mid-site rather than to the north of the site due to the topography that you mentioned.
Correct.
Has there been any consideration given the accessibility route of other drop-off areas, so people that are not going that third of a mile or whatever it is in that situation.
So ADA accessible parking will also take place here. Yes. Sorry, I'm just making sure because there's a lot of conversations and emails about the project, and I'm just making sure that I have the most recent, is that there will be traffic control agents and the, if if you have accessible needs, you will be able to come down Lane, the Parkway, drop guests off, and then go back and park in that lot, in the paid parking spot. So those are also, there are some spots for ADA in there carved out because there aren't any spots on the CPAC site.
Thank you.
Commissioner Baxley?
Quick question. Thanks, Hillary. I think this is an interesting use here. My guess is, had the topography worked, we probably would have seen a lot more parking here because I imagine we're going to need it. But since this is a bit experimental, could you talk again about why you want the landscape screening go more wall-like as opposed to this, which looks a lot more interesting and potentially...
Yeah, and I just a little more parallel just because it's, I guess it's, how am I trying to say it? Like, it's not completely screened, right, when you can see through the rows of landscape, and so trying to just make those a little bit more parallel, willing to work with their landscape designers to
Good.
allow some creative, because I do, I agree, but our code is specific, right, 3-foot
Yeah.
screen. I can work with them to allow some of this creativity or flexibility, but still get it a little bit more screened, and they do recognize that there are some gaps here where there aren't shrubs, and so we've already been discussing changes to the site plan, to the
Good.
landscape plan, that can address those conditions of approval.
Yeah, I think I would take advantage of the unique situation to try some unique solutions for the city and us too. Could you talk about how the lighting works on this? So especially, I'm assuming it's going to be a lit lot, and when it's not in use, is that the lights stay on? Do they go dark? Do we?
That is a question I'd like to ask the applicants to answer. Actually, there are, parking lot lights in here, and then there are lights in the trees, and so I think, let's ask the applicant that question.
Okay.
Any other questions before we move on to the public hearing? Commissioner Shepard?
I had one quick one, and thank you for the presentation, Hillary. The EV charging variance is predicated upon it remaining the CPAC parking only. Is that true?
Well, variances run with the property. Now, if the use changed, we would be looking at a new EV charging requirement most likely, and so something in the future might trigger its own requirement or.
This is a follow-on to the future, because I'm presuming that this was judged not a recoverable cost, and that's why the variance was sought, correct? Mm-hmm. So if future development around this area were to use this parking lot, is there some mechanism by which we could then require the addition of those EV charging stations in compliance with the spirit of the zoning ordinance?
I mean, once granted, I don't think we can compel them. I mean, we could ask them to, but I don't think we can make them put them in the future once the variance is approved. Unless something new comes and the requirement is different. But it would have to be a bigger surface parking lot, I think, to have a bigger parking requirement, because like if this was a ramp, they wouldn't have the EV requirement. It's just for the surface lot.
And if I may add to that, the code requirement specifically states newly established surface parking lots are subject to the EV parking requirement. So once established,
So this is the chance to do it or not?
correct.
And if we were to apply it to the 213 non-ride share spots, we're talking about 11 spots, if my math is correct.
You're anticipating where I was going with it.
Yeah, I was an English major, so check my math.
I came up with 10.39.
Yeah, you got to round up.
No, you would round down in our zoning code, so that would only be 10.
So
0.5 and higher,
five
you can
dual
go
whip
up.
stations.
0.49, you go down, so,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay.
Are there any other questions before we move on? All right, I will open the public hearing. Do we have the applicant with us today? You can come up. If you can introduce yourself, and if you'd like to give any presentation, you can, but even if you don't, I think we have some questions for you.
Didn't know a lot about
Sorry,
this.
you're not,
I'm sorry, I'm Alan Tucker.
I thought you were the applicant, sorry.
No, I'm not the applicant.
Sorry, is the applicant here?
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Commissioners. Eli Sankey with Kimley Horn. I can speak to the lighting comment. So there's a mixture. Pull up the lighting plan here.
Eli, I just have,
This might do.
this is the only one I have in here, in this packet.
That should be okay. There's a mixture of 35-foot height poles for lighting for the parking areas, and then there's some 25-foot poles as well, kind of around the perimeter. And additional to that, along the 9-foot sidewalk along Washington, there's some uplighting on some of the trees. So we think that'll be helpful. Some of the events get out late, patrons walking back to their cars, there'll be some nice accents on the trees. In terms of operations, I just don't think we're quite there in exactly what hours the lighting would be in use. I think if there's a preference to have them on all the time or on less, they'd be open to considering whatever's best for the community in the area.
Did you have any additional questions about the lighting, Commissioner Baxley? All right, other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any additional people who would like to speak, you can come up now.
Sorry. I'm Alan Tucker. I own basically the wedge on 2nd to Washington where the boat place is. One is the intersection down there right now is already overcrowded. It backs up a couple blocks some days. What I'm worried about more than anything else is on any time there's an event or near an event, people are not going to go to the paid parking. They're going to block all the way up and down the street where I have my customers park. I don't know if there's any way we can have a no event parking area in that area or whatever else, but we have people dropping off boats all the time. And I'm worried that if it has an event that instead of going to the paid parking, they're going to park all the way up and down Washington and 2nd Street. So, but otherwise, their intersection now, they did a poor job of putting that bike path on Dowling. Nobody uses it. It's too steep. I don't know if you try it. Everybody, even the bike people, say they all go down to the other end. But that bridge is just, it backs up for blocks right now. And I don't know how anybody's going to get in and out of that parking lot unless they have officers there letting them in and out. So that's what I'd like to say.
Thank you for your testimony.
you.
Would anyone else like to testify? All right, not seeing any, so I will close the public hearing. First, I'll just make a comment about the parking outside the project. It's not in the Planning Commission's purview to be able to impose any regulations on streets outside the project, so that is not something we're able to do today. We are only able to look at the application that is in front of us, so that's not something we can do. I'll say where I'm at on things. So Commissioner Shepard anticipated me in that I think the drop-off justification makes complete sense for the variance on electric vehicles, but I don't think that we should exclude it entirely. So my proposal would be to do a variance in lieu, to give them a variance to go down to 10 electric vehicle chargers, which would correspond to the 213 vehicles that are just going to be a regular parking lot. And then for the other variance D, I mean, I accept the logic that parking is needed at the site, for a regional amenity like this, but I think it should be in a structured lot. That's why we have this requirement. This requirement doesn't say you can never have more than 100 parking spots. It says that when you have so much parking demand, then we should put it in a structured site so that we can reduce the amount of permeable surface and the pollution into the nearby park and river and all the other ecological effects that come with surface parking lots. So I have no objection to the other, to the land conveyance or variance F. But my proposal would be to modify variance E, like I stated, and to deny only part of variance D, only the 100 part, and I wouldn't propose to change the other part. But that's where I'm at, and we'll see where the commissioners are. Or Kimberly, you want to comment first?
So Chair Meyer, just to clarify, your recommended motion on variance D would essentially limit the site to 100 surface parking stalls.
Yes.
So then variance E should be calculated based on a maximum of 100 parking stalls,
Oh, right.
if that's all you're going to grant them. So I don't know what that number is off the top of my head, but I can calculate it.
Okay, yeah. Let's see where other commissioners are at. And depending on which way that goes, we can make that modification. All right, other commissioners. Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I understand, and I agree with you, Commissioner, that, the preference would be for a structured parking, but I understand it's cost prohibitive, and I do see this moving forward. And I think right now, even the parking calculation that we have in front of us is going to be tight for that regional 8,200 space theater. So, but I do appreciate the sentiment behind, making, building up, right, and building structured lots. I just don't know how to incentivize it. But at this point, I'm going to support the staff recommendations on all of the items ahead of us.
Okay. Other commissioners? Commissioner Thompson?
Yes, thank you, Chair Meyer. I too will support the staff recommendations. And first of all, I do want to thank Mr. Tucker for coming down here. I completely understand what you're saying, and I also am part of those backups when they occur. It's why I asked if there was a traffic study. And I get that, for those who don't know this project as well, it's an incredibly cobbled together ray of hope, like with all these different jurisdictions trying to put it together in the hopes that it is something great, right? And it has been very challenging, but I'll just say, I mean, as fellow commissioners have said, the idea of an 8,200 person event center and only 200 and something spots, what are we looking at, sorry, 287. There's nothing else up there. It's all industrialized at the present. There's only some street parking. There is a not very highly used bike lane. There is a lot of stuff that is like on a wing and a prayer, hoping that it comes here. And I would hate for us to not be part of that vision. So yes, I support staff recommendations. I'm going to guess they wouldn't even want one for as little as 100 spaces. Thanks.
Other commissioners? All right, so my proposed order of operations here would be that we take a vote on the staff recommendation for D. If that doesn't pass, then I would propose my alternative motion, which would limit it to 100 parking spots. And then, depending on which direction we go from there, then we would take on item E, and we could have whatever percentage comes out of the vote outcome from item D, and then we can vote on the rest of the items. Is everyone okay with that order of operations? Okay, so I'm not going to make the motion for D, but for one of the two who spoke for it, would you like to move the staff recommendation for variance D.
Variance D.
All right,
And I will second that.
all right. There's a motion and a second on variance D. Is there any further discussion on that one? All right, clerk, please take the roll.
Commissioner Baxley,
Aye.
Chowdhury,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Shefty is absent. Shepherd,
Aye.
Thompson,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Meyer.
No.
So we have 8 ayes and 1 nay.
All right. So for item E, I would propose a variance in lieu to allow, to still require 10 spots. Should I add anything to that to word it right, Kimberly?
So I believe the motion would be to deny the variance as proposed and in lieu thereof, grant a variance to reduce the required amount of EV charging stations from 14 to 10.
Yes. Okay.
Point of clarification? We're not, so just the vote, what you're proposing is exactly what was said, and that's what we're voting on. So up or down on 10
Yeah.
EV stations? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
All right. I'm going to make the motion for what Kimberly just said. Is there any second to that?
Wait, just sorry, point of clarification as
Yes.
well, Chair. So you're saying from 14 to 10 or just 10?
So I believe the motion would be to
now it's-
require 10 EV charging stations.
Okay.
But
at
because
the very
14 are
least.
required, it would be a variance to reduce from 14 to 10. The applicant has requested a variance to reduce from 14 to 0.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the
Gotcha.
staff
Thank
recommendation
you.
is 0. The motion I've just made and Conley seconded would make it 10.
Got it.
Is there any further discussion or Commissioner Shepherd, you had your light on? Okay. Anyone else? All right. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Baxley,
Nay.
Chowdhury,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Jones.
No, nay.
Shefty is absent. Shepherd,
Aye.
Thompson,
No.
Wagner,
Aye.
and Meyer.
Aye.
So we have 6 ayes and 3 nays.
So that motion is adopted. And now I'll look for a motion to adopt items A, B, C, F, and G.
I'll move A, B, C, D, F, and G together.
Not D.
Or sorry, A, B, C, F, G. Sorry, since you're a kid, that's how you say it.
All right. Is there a second? All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That is adopted. Good luck with your project. All right, next, 401 Royalston Avenue North in Ward 5. Staff is Nick Willett.
My name is Nicholas Willett. I am a city planner with zoning administration. For you today is item number 6 regarding 401 Royalston Avenue North. The project is to expand the number of parking stalls on the site. For that, the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow for the expansion of the accessory parking in the downtown parking overlay district, a variance to increase the maximum number of parking stalls allowed in the downtown parking overlay district, and a variance to increase the maximum number of parking stalls allowed for a commercial and recreation assembly use from 39 to 80. The site is a little more than 92,000 square feet in area, with frontage along Royalston Avenue North to the east and Border Avenue North to the west. Access is provided from Royalston Avenue North. The west end is elevated above Border Avenue North by approximately 10-foot retaining wall with no connection between the site and Border Avenue. The existing building is vacant, and the applicant is in the process of establishing a fowling warehouse, which is an indoor recreation area type use. The existing parking area on the site has 70 stalls split between a larger surface lot on the west side of the property and a smaller surface lot towards the front of the property. The applicant is proposing to expand the number of parking stalls by restriping the existing paved area in a more efficient layout. There will be no expansion of pavement with this project. The restriping project will yield 10 additional stalls for a total of 80 parking stalls. The existing and proposed parking exceeds the maximum parking allowed for the downtown parking overlay district, and the proposed indoor recreation use, which restricts the maximum parking to 1 space per 1,000 feet of gross floor area. The maximum number of parking spaces based on the size of the structure would be 39 stalls. With respect to the findings required for the conditional use permit approval, the establishment of 10 additional parking spaces on the site will not be detrimental to the health, public safety, comfort, or general welfare. Staff has included a condition requiring the proposal to comply with distance to trees parking requirements, where no parking space shall be located more than 50 feet from an on-site deciduous tree. Staff finds that there's adequate space on the west parking area to allow for the addition of landscape tree islands. The addition of 10 parking spaces for 80 total parking spaces will not negatively impact the use, enjoyment, or orderly development of surrounding properties. And the addition of 10 spaces will not alter how the site operates. Adequate utilities and access are existing and would not be impacted by an increase of the number of parking stalls. Adequate measures have been taken to ensure a safe and effective interface with the public right-of-way. The project is subject to preliminary development review and approval, in which Public Works has reviewed and signed off on the proposal. With the adoption of staff recommendation condition of approval, the proposal would be consistent with the comprehensive plan goal of mitigating the negative effects of surface parking lots with urban heat islands through the added landscaping. If requested, the land use applications are approved, the proposal will comply with all provisions of the district in which it is located. With respect to the variances, to increase the maximum number of parking stalls allowed in the downtown parking overlay district and for commercial recreation and assembly uses, challenges exist in complying with the ordinance because of circumstances unique to the property which are not solely economic in nature. The property was previously zoned I-2 Medium Industrial District and used for industrial purposes, and currently maintains a non-conforming rights to 70 parking stalls. The surface parking lot was configured to accommodate large industrial vehicles and was established prior to the site being rezoned DT1 Downtown Center District and Downtown Parking Overlay as part of the 2023 Land Use Rezoning Study. Reconfiguring the site to accommodate passenger vehicles in lieu of trucks results in a more efficient layout with smaller drive aisles and results in an increased number of stalls. Additionally, the west end of the site is elevated, which significantly limits what can be done with this portion of the site without compromising the structural integrity of the retaining wall. The change in use from truck parking to passenger parking, passenger vehicle parking, and the existing retaining wall on the east end are circumstances unique to this site and not created by the applicant. The request to increase the number of parking stalls within the existing parking area is reasonable and in keeping with the spirit and intent of the ordinance and comprehensive plan. As conditioned, tree islands will be required, so no parking spaces shall be located more than 50 feet from an on-site deciduous tree, which will minimize the urban heat island effect from surface parking lots. The proposed variances will not alter the essential character of the locality or be injurious to the use or enjoyment of surrounding properties. The existing building and parking lot are consistent with surrounding properties which were originally developed for production and industrial uses. With that, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit and variances with conditions to allow for the expansion of an accessory lot. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be available for comments or questions from the committee.
Thank you, Nick. Are there any questions for the staff before we move on to the public hearing? Not seeing any? Thank you. I'll open the public hearing. Is the applicant here with us? Okay. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your project.
Good evening. I guess I get up here. Good evening. I'm Chris Cunningham. This is Andrew Cunningham. He's my brother.
Yes.
Thank you for hearing us tonight and listening to Nicholas's great presentation on our project. I just have one correction. It's foaling, not fouling. So just want to throw that in there. Anyways, we appreciate, I guess, the flexibility and your willingness to consider these variance requests. The one, I guess, question or request we would have would be to remove the requirement to add the 4 islands with trees. You know, we've worked with our contractor. We got pricing for it. It's like $30,000 for the 4 islands, which is, you know, not an insignificant amount for our little project, you know, as opposed to some other projects. So it, you know, from it takes it from a net add of 10 stalls to 6 stalls. So, you know, we lose a couple spots. Obviously, our goal is to get as many on-site parking stalls as we can, given, you know, the existing configuration. You know, we're not changing the impervious area. You know, we're not opposed to trees. We like trees, but it's just a hard thing for us to accommodate at this point in the project. You know, what we would ask is if that could be removed or potentially delayed to a further extension of 5 years, perhaps. Or maybe when we get this connection from the transit to the farmers market. One of the items that we'd like to kind of share with you is a plan from the North Loop Association that was done in 2019 that highlighted this property. As you're aware, the transit stop is directly in front of our building. And as Nicholas said, there's about a 10, 12-foot drop that goes from the back parking lot to the farmer's market. You know, we would love to foster, you know, the idea of a promenade that would connect the farmer's market to the transit stop, because, you know, it is a wonderful, feature, that farmer's market. You know, it took me 5 minutes just to get to, you know, my building, or our building, I guess, you know, coming down Royalston and around, because it is just a happening kind of thing. So, you know, it would be great if it could be deferred until something happens at that point. There are no plans by us, but we'd like to, you know, help implement, you know, however we can by fostering that connection between the farmers market and the transit, which, you know, at that point, you know, one could possibly see, you know, the reduction of further parking to make that promenade happen. So it's hard for us to lose stalls now and then lose more stalls. I understand that we have more stalls than what would normally be allowed, and we're very grateful for that opportunity. But anything else to add to that, or what did I miss, I guess?
I think you got it all good, architect.
Okay. So, yeah, so Andrew, ex-engineer, he's going to be the general manager there at the Fulling Warehouse. So
that's right.
It's kind of a personal endeavor of ours. So, yeah, with some other investors, and be a great project. So we're really pleased to be in the North Loop, and really excited about this project. So any questions for us that we can stand for?
I was just about to open it to that. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you. Great presentation. I appreciate what you're doing here. Looking at this, though, I want to dive more into these trees, because what I appreciate about this requirement is that we do have a problem with heat islands and heat pollution, all of the things. And so I love the idea of trees as a requirement of infrastructure. So when you look at this screen specifically, all you see is concrete. I don't see any green space except for little slivers here and there. And that's urban design, right? But I would encourage you, one of the things that stood out to me about your proposal for the increased parking spaces is that you're not going to do it by adding more concrete. You're being innovative in the way that you stripe. And I like that. I think that that's a brilliant way to increase to get to where you need without expanding adding more concrete, right? So talk to me a little bit more, aside from the cost prohibitive nature, I heard that it's $30,000 for the 4 tree islands, which is, an added cost. But you're gonna lose like 6 spots. Talk me
Well,
through more of how we can't be more innovative
Sure.
with the trees.
Yeah, I guess when we restriped it, I was able to get it up to, go to that next one. So 71 stalls, or I guess a total of 80 stalls there without the islands. We did scrunch down the drive aisles, did our minimum, islands there to get the trees 7 foot wide. So without adding the islands, we are able to add 10 stalls to what is, to a different, by striping the lot differently. So right now, there's 60 stalls, I think. If we change around the striping, we can get up to 70 stalls, and then, 71 stalls in the back. And then if we scrunch the drive aisles, put the islands in, we would lose, our net add would be 6 stalls instead of 10 stalls. Does that make sense?
Mr. Chair, it does. So all 4 of the islands you don't think you can do to get to the 80 spaces?
No.
Okay.
No. No, not with meeting the other, I guess, the drive aisle and parking stall requirements. It wasn't possible. So, I scrunched and stretched and, looked at, several different, configurations, trying to maximize that existing parking lot. Because, so we're trying to be effective with our project and our dollars and didn't want to add to that, so.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, anyone else? All right, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Not seeing any, so I will close the public hearing. I'll start off by saying I fully support the staff recommendation. I think it's very reasonable to restripe the existing spaces, adding more parking spots without adding more impervious surface. But I do think it's important to keep the trees that staff have included as a condition. I think it was a mistake to allow surface parking lots like this one without those amenities, because it has, as Commissioner Conley was saying, led to a major heat island effect, and the trees provide a refuge for birds and other animals, and I just think it's important for us to take the opportunity to get more of those when we have it. So I will be supporting the full staff recommendation, including the tree condition. Are there any other comments or questions from commissioners? All right, anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move staff recommendation for approval.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Baxley?
Aye.
Chowdhury?
Aye.
Conley?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Shefty is absent. Shepherd?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye.
Wagner?
Aye.
Meyer?
Aye.
We have 9 ayes and 0 nays.
That is adopted. Can we get an update on where we're at with the closed captioning availability?
We were able to get an extension until 7:30.
Great. All right. So our next item is item 8. Commissioner Thompson had said you just wanted a presentation. Do you want to?
Yeah, I just was curious, I read it thoroughly, and I don't know procedurally since I requested a presentation, if we have to do the whole thing. I know that we're hitting almost 6 o'clock.
Well, we got an extension on the
Okay.
on the closed captioning, so it's okay if you want to. I just want to know if you would like
I
a
would
full
love
presentation or a
I would
short
love
one.
a short one and a chance to just understand the project slightly better. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so the former 150-room Sheraton Hotel at the Midtown Global Market that was built in 2004. The proposal is to convert that former hotel into a 182-person state credentialed care facility. There's 4 uses that are part of this project. On that ground floor, 2 are open to the public, a coffee shop and cafe, medical office space. And then a third element on the first floor is office space for the operator. Upper floor is where the main use, that state credentialed care facility, would be located. Those upper floors, for the 182 individuals. Zoning code definition for a SCCF, that abbreviation for a state credentialed care facility, is a congregate living use where 2 or more persons reside under the care and supervision of a program licensed by the state of Minnesota, providing supportive services for more than 30 days, which the applicant is proposing to do. The zoning district which this is located, CM3, allows SCCFs with 17 or more beds as a conditional use. And I can quickly go through those findings if you like. CPED sees the project meeting findings 1 and 2 not being detrimental or endanger the public health or injurious to the use in the surrounding area. It'll comply with health, safety, and building code requirements. It's licensed by the state, intended to provide a safe environment for individuals pursuing sobriety, and 24-hour staffing by 1 operator. Finding 3, there's adequate utilities, access roads, and drainage. The applicant's proposing a site plan to comply with the conditions that staff has to meet the same landscaping requirements when it was completed. Finding 4, ensure a safe and effective interface with the public right-of-way and nearby transportation system. Again, having a site plan that was previously approved not too long ago, and that staff finds this to be a great location for alternative modes of transportation with pedestrian access, bike, and bus access, and maintaining the 71-space surface parking lot in front of the building. And finally, findings 5 and 6, CPED sees the project consistent with the comprehensive plan and other regulations. It expands housing choices and services, repurposes an existing building, and meets the CM3 requirements of incorporating a commercial and non-residential use on the first floor. Project, the SCCF element, is in compliance with the spacing requirements. Again, staff sees the project meeting the findings. There were no public comments received with the project noticing. So CPED is recommending approval of the project with the conditions of recording the conditional use permit with the county, complying with the 2004 site plan, continuing compliance with the commercial requirements on the first floor and the bike parking. So I'm happy to answer questions you may have.
Any questions for Aaron? Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, I just have a question. Are they going to be doing interior reconfiguration, like putting, community space and kitchens and other facilities to support? I'm just curious. I don't know if it's a planning commission question, but just my own.
I can let the applicant speak more to this, but there's definitely, there will be, I believe, renovations to accommodate the 4 different uses, including that cafe and coffee shop that does show kitchen space in this area. But Chair and Commissioner Jones, not sure if that answers your question specifically.
Anyone else?
I
Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Chair. I think most of my questions probably would be for the applicant. I understand what's being presented. I'm just curious the levels, so thank you. Probably questions similar to Commissioner Jones. Thank you.
Anyone else before we move on to the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. We have the applicant with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about your project, and then we'll have a couple questions for you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Commissioners, my name is Jacob Steen with Larkin Hoffman, and we represent the applicant. Excuse me. I won't repeat everything that Aaron mentioned, but I will try to answer some questions. Happy to do that. I do want to say this is an exciting opportunity to take what has been a long closed facility into a very active use that will serve the residents of this community. It'll be a safe and active use, and we're excited about the opportunity. With the question, I think, was, will there be kitchens? There are a number of units that currently are kind of longer-term stay, but there's an existing kitchen on site, and this will operate in many ways very much as a hotel. Many of the residents will come and go. It's just simply a longer stay with some supportive wraparound services on site. So there will be a kitchen with food availability, but many of them will have jobs, go to their families, and eat throughout the community.
Right. Questions for the applicant, Commissioner Thompson?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Meyer. I guess you started to answer my question. Because of its proximity to Abbott, I was curious if this, these are new for the state and for the city. And I kind of take seriously every one that comes up, and this one is rather large in many positive ways, but also could be challenging ways. Is this meant to be more of like a, dare I say, like hospital hospice type recovery facility, or more of a temporary housing from is it meant to be from the hospital, or is it just an opportunity that it just happens to be in close proximity?
So that is a good question. I'm sorry, Chair, Commissioner Thompson, that's a really great question, because these are such new uses, and this is perhaps maybe a little bit less intense than some of the other models that you might have seen. Yes, the intent is that these are guests who have been discharged if they have been hospitalized. Every one of these residents is committed to sobriety. They are very far along their journey. This is a much less intense, it's I think a level 3.5 or 3.8 when one is the starting. So there will not be intensive medical services on site. Again, the proximity is really a coincidence. There will be medical offices on site. We can't disclose who that operator will be, but if we have our way, it will be a very large operator that is within the neighborhood already.
Thank you. I just have another question, and I appreciate that answer. Has this, and I was looking up the name, and I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. The contractor who's going to put this together, do they have any other locations that they've done this before? Or is this a brand new service for them? And was it Sobriety Incorporated, I believe is what the name was?
Right, Sobriety Inc., and that will be the operator of the SCCF, or one of the partners. Mm-hmm. But it's designed that it can interchange with any one of the operators. Yes, this is a seasoned operator that has a number of facilities throughout the Twin Cities. Okay. And again, there are a lot of operators out there, but this is in many ways a much less intense use that really fits very well. I mean, arguably this, given the broad definition, it could potentially fall under the classification of a hotel, but because of this very specific new definition, we felt it necessary to just go through the process and make sure we have an open and transparent process.
Thank you. I really appreciate the clarifications, and thank you for your answers. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Jones, did you have any additional questions? Commissioner Conley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. One question that I have to start out with is Sobriety Inc. a for-profit entity?
I will have to. I believe it is a for-profit entity. It is a partner. Again, if it weren't for those plans that were prepared by Sobriety Inc., we wouldn't be advertising a partner specifically. We are committed to our partner, but we do want to make sure that we have the flexibility to operate, kind of partner agnostic. Mm-hmm. But yes, this is, they're generally for profit.
Right. So these types of permits are new, as you know, mm-hmm. To meet the demand for what for the types of treatment needs that we need for overwhelming increases in mental health supports and opioid use within our state. And I'll speak specifically to this area, this community that I have the privilege of representing on the Hennepin County Board. This location has a significant history, and I'm not sure that many people are aware who are actively going after the permits. While we do need it in our community, I want to be very clear that this area, this specific hotel, has a history to it. 5 years ago, that our community was pretty much devastated by, and not just the fires and the uprising, but also that this space was used to gather. It was used for people who were unhoused, and it was also used for mutual aid. The community took it upon themselves to house people there who would have burned to death had it weren't been for the Sheraton. When I was coming in today, I ran into the executive director of the Lake Street Council, who was planning to comment on this item today, but just didn't know what to say. So my concern is that there needs to be real outreach with the residents, the councils, and the communities who have been impacted by this location, who have ideas to share, who would like to be involved in conversations that happen before you get here. So I can think of a few: the Neighborhood Development Center, the Lake Street Council, et cetera. There's some great partners along that stretch of Lake Street who would love to hear more about, while the operator can't be disclosed, I'm happy to hear that they've been in the community, but also I would highly recommend a conversation with the communities around, within the Midtown Phillips area, in and around what was the Sheraton Hotel, because what you're doing is certainly what we need in our community. How it's shaped, how it looks, how it operates is going to be something that's going to need substantial resident impact. So while there was a question in there, I think it was answered, but it's more so sharing what I've heard as a representative of this area for the last 8 years.
Yeah, Chair Commissioner Conley, thank you for those comments, and that's certainly not lost on us. I think I'd have a couple of comments. One, yes, we are absolutely in communication with the neighborhood group, and we will be presenting to them I believe it's even just next week, with Midtown Phillips Neighborhood Group, and we do fully intend to engage with the community. One of the neat things about this use specifically is, a hotel, a struggling hotel in particular, can't afford the security that the site needs to make sure that this will be a safe use. This use itself will accommodate and require 24 hours a day security, both inside and outside. So we actually see it as a net improvement. And we've actually been maintained a long-standing dialogue with the owners and managers that are involved with the Real Estate Owners Association within Midtown Exchange. So there's a lot of those conversations that we'll continue to have, and we have the flexibility to be nimble in terms of our operations, and we absolutely will, and so that we can be responsive, because it is absolutely not lost on us that this is a place of real community trauma, and we want to make sure that it's a safe, active, healthy place for the community.
Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Chowdhury.
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. I echo a lot of the sentiments that Commissioner Conley shared. She basically teed off the question that was kind of going through my head and thinking back to 2020 and just this part of the Southside community. And I know you mentioned that you're planning on meeting with the Midtown Phillips Neighborhood Association, but I wanted to know what other groups are you planning on meeting with? Because there are many stakeholders along the Lake Street corridor that are involved in not only the business community and its future and thriving, but also in supporting unhoused community members, supporting women who are facing domestic abuse, family partnership for one, and who are just like really, really invested for the last I would say like 30, 40 years in the safety, vibrancy of this corridor. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to give you the opportunity to share more of like what kind of outreach you're planning on doing and who's in mind.
Yeah, we have maintained a lot of dialogue with, certainly with Lake Street Council. And, you know, we've been focused very much on our, kind of our internal partners with the REOA, which includes, of course, Alina, Ryan, and all of their operations folks, because it's a pretty extensive, the Alina operation. So what I would tell you is we are committed to continuing to be involved with really anyone who will have us. And, you know, staff has my contact information, and if there's a suggestion that you have, we've certainly met with the council members in the immediate vicinity, and we would happily take any suggestions and continue to maintain that dialogue. It really is intended to be an ongoing dialogue.
That's great. I'm happy to follow up with some stakeholders that I think would be really interested in having a conversation with you. My next question is just kind of getting an understanding of who this will serve and how clients/patients are going to be referred to this location.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, like I said, this is a population that is largely in this community already. These are individuals who, again, are very committed to sobriety. They need a kind of a stable ground and a framework to help support them as they make that next step into full-fledged housing. So these are individuals who are referred through, oftentimes through the hospitals in the community and other more intensive programs that exist. And again, it's part of a continuum of care. You know, ultimately, after the 30 to 60 days, and again, this, you know, as a reminder, this is, none of these are mandatory stays. Everyone is here voluntarily. This is a very secure facility, but it's not a locked facility. And we do anticipate people will be there 30 to 90 days, but they can leave at any time. And when they leave, we would anticipate they'll either go, you know, live with friends and family or into some of the sober homes in the community, which frankly in this community have been very successful. So again, it's a little bit of a new system, but it's part of that broader continuum of care to make sure that people don't end up back on the street and don't end up, you know, with their, falling back into old habits.
Great, thank you. And so it sounds like there's a big priority in serving the community that is going to be within. And I know that other care facilities have had partnerships with Hennepin County for referrals. Is there something similar with this?
You know, ultimately, I think it's going to depend on who our final operator is, exactly where it's going to go. We know that it is going to alleviate some of the pressure on beds in the healthcare system in the community. But again, yeah, to your point, we don't anticipate our residents are going to come to us. We're coming to them where they live in their community.
Great. I'll just close with saying that I think this is a very, very fortuitous opportunity that's here before us for an adaptive reuse of the Sheraton Hotel, given the history of 2020 and the number of people who not only needed shelter because of the fires, but also just the economic upheaval of that time. And I remember many community members, just our neighbors, many street outreach workers were reaching out to council members, other elected leaders to see if the Sheraton could be a shelter. And so it is really, really just, from my view, pretty remarkable to see that it's headed in a direction to serve a population of people that we currently are very regularly across all levels of government underserving. And I think a huge part of what we're missing is a place where folks can learn how to reintegrate back into community, back into everyday society after having really, really a deep struggle with substance use disorder and their own sobriety. I think all of us who are elected representatives regularly see that. Neighbors in our community regularly see that. And so I appreciate you all taking the transparent process and going through this. And I appreciate staff's work and bringing this forward to us.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, thank you. This is also just following up on Commissioners Conley and Chowdhury's comments, so thank you for those. It's great to see that you have a trusted operator that you're mentioning. More beds are great in this adaptive reuse project. Given that, you are dealing with community members that are following through with a continuum of care, I would also just encourage you to reach out to groups like Southside Harm Reduction and NAC. Those are two in particular that have done a lot of work, underserved groups a lot of times. People with deep history, deep connections to those community members that you seek to serve, and just have a lot of context and knowledge that would be very helpful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Not seeing any? Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, are there any comments, questions, or motions? Do you have them?
I would like to move this item for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on that? All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Baxley,
Aye.
Chowdhury,
Aye.
Conley,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Shepherd,
Aye.
Thompson,
Aye.
Wagner,
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
We have 9 yeas and 9 ayes and 0 nays.
That is adopted. All right, next, item 9 is 1600, 1608, 1612 Lake Street in Ward 10.
Chair Meyer, so staff had recommended this one for discussion, anticipating that members of the public would be present. I believe the only remaining member of the public is the applicant on this item. So would the Planning Commission still like a presentation on this one? Otherwise, the staff recommendation on this was for approval.
Anyone? All right, would anyone like to make a motion?
I will move that we accept staff recommendation.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? That is adopted, and that concludes our business for the day. We do have Committee of the Whole on Thursday, July 10th, and then the next regular.
Chair Meyer, did we open the public hearing? We do still need a public hearing on that item, even if we do, because we noticed it as a public hearing. So even if no one's here, we still need to open it and close it.
Oh, right, okay. All right, got it. All right, so would anyone like to speak to item number 9? I'll open the public hearing. Do you want to speak to it? No, okay. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Anyone else? I'll close the public hearing, and we need to vote again?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'll move it for approval.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, that's adopted. All right, now we're done.
Thank you to Aspen for sitting through all of that.
Yeah.
Dave, you got a good planning commission meeting for
Yeah.
your first one.
That was a robust one. Are we gavelled out? Or was it, we're done?
No updates from staff, other than we do have one item at Committee of the Whole this Thursday. It is a upcoming text amendment related to the minimum height requirements in some of our built form districts. So it'll be a preliminary discussion on that as our code development team works on preparing a final recommendation.
All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.